What's up, Zach here, and today I've got the Xenon Xtreme. Once again, probably the most durable court shoe on the market right now, whether we're talking about tennis, pickleball, outdoor basketball, yes, paddle, which was Xenon's a paddle tennis company, or padel. Really, doesn't matter what you're playing, these things actually got you covered pretty good. And actually figured out just on happenstance that the V2 versus the V1s, somehow the rubber actually is really good for indoor courts too. So we'll talk about that when we get to the outsole, but that was kind of a weird thing. Now, of course, Xenon did send me these to check out. I do have a sandal with Xenon. Obviously, they're right there, but I am not a profit participant in these shoes. I have no dog in this fight whatsoever. This video is by no means sponsored, so you could buy these or not. I don't really care. I do have a discount code that actually does extend to my sandals too. So yeah, like I said, profit participant with the sandals, not at all with these, so I can say whatever I want, which I always do anyway, even if it is a sponsored video. So anyway, getting into the uppers, not much has changed from the V1 to the V2 in the uppers. The one thing is they're just a little bit more streamlined versus the V1, a little bit more bulky. And remember, paddle tennis is a cold weather sport. So, you know, the uppers are meant to be a little bit more insulating. These ones, these have the best tongue of just about any shoe out there. It just padded really nicely all the way down, so there's no lace irritation whatsoever. The laces on these, you will ask why I cut them down, because sometimes you find some interesting stuff. These ones are bubbled, so you are gonna get a really nice lockdown on these. You do get the option for a runner's knot, and all these lace eyelets are reinforced with TPU, which is fantastic. Heel slippage on these, really none. Mild if you don't use the runner's knot, not a big deal. Now look at these things on the breathability test. The fog starts getting out of there really soon. Now this is a white colorway, the fog is white, so it's kind of hard to see it on camera, but I lifted it up and showed you. Really, the fog gets out of these honeycombs really quickly. If you look at this on the microscope, I thought that was really neat. Seeing that TPU melded in to the actual woven part of the uppers, I think that's why these are so strong in the uppers, because you get that really nice premium weave, and then it's melded, actually glued, or not glued, but melted or melded, or whatever the word is, into the actual TPU of the uppers. So you do have the connection points everywhere around here. That starts with the laces and then just connects everywhere into the uppers, with just fantastic, really fantastic containment. And then that also extends to the harness that goes all the way around the uppers, from the medial side into the arch, into the shank, which we'll talk about in a second, and then all the way around into the lateral side, and that stops right at the flange. So really, in terms of support in the rear foot and in the midfoot of the shoe, I know this shoe is meant to be a little bit more flexible because it is a paddle tennis shoe, but if you're looking for a shoe for more of the anatomic or natural foot movement in the forefoot, but also the containment of a really rugged shoe like a Gel Resolution 9, you know, those types of models, or Tornio or things like that, or in the basketball space, like an All City 13. But you also want like the zero type feel in the forefoot. This is a great amalgamation of all of those things. Sorry for the weird word, but that's kind of what these are to me, is an amalgamation of all those different characteristics. And it really does start in the uppers and how light but strong they are, but then having the harness in the back. All right, beginning in the midsole teardown, there is some new stuff in here from the V1. Now it is still an entire bed of supercritical TPE. It is just incredibly comfortable feeling underfoot. It feels like those giant puff marshmallows underneath your foot, but it does have a lot of spring back. Then it has the bottom loaded plastic shank that does go all the way around into that harness in the rear foot. Then the forefoot, it actually has this very, very flexible plastic piece here. You look on a tensiometer, it only takes 34 newtons to get this thing to 45 degrees. Like I said, it's meant to be a more flexible shoe, but this is in place of that woven piece in the first model, that burlap piece in the first model. And this is just to give like a little bit of a springboard type effect to the forefoot, just give it a little bit more torsional stability side to side. And what I like this is almost the same as the Shank Strobel in the KDs, like the 17s and 18s we've been seeing recently, except this one, flexible enough, doesn't go through the whole forefoot, it's just in the center. So you never, like, your ball of your foot does not contact this. The ball of your foot contacts behind it as long as you get this right size. But you also get the little springboard. So I don't know, they may have stolen that idea from me. I don't know, I mean, whatever. But that is perfect in kind of what I would have done in the KD line if they wanted to make that shank strobel. So good on you guys for watching that video. So that is pretty cool. Like I said, in terms of torsional stability in the forefoot, it actually is, like I said, it's a little flexible, but actually not. I mean, there is pretty good. And then in the forefoot, you get that really nice spring back on this thing. Yeah, it bends easy, but then it really wants to bring back its shape. So to me, that's a really nice combination. So yeah, like I said, in terms of kind of a lightweight midsole, remember TPE is lightweight. It's not necessarily the most robust foam, right? It's meant to be lightweight, it's meant to be very airy, bouncy feeling, but when you add little touches like this, you can really bring it up to a much more violently bouncing foam. You still get a lot of the shock absorbing capabilities of this version of TPE, because remember, you can make these foams whatever you want. This version is a little more shock absorbing, but then you get the shank plus the forefoot leaflet that give it, a lot of its bounce characteristics. Look, this thing in the bounce height test, a lot different than the V1. Got 38 centimeters in the rear foot versus 32 in the V1, 35 in the forefoot versus 30. And obviously that's the plastic plate, right? That's what that's doing. So honestly, really nice touches on this. I really like the upgrades on this. All in all, just in terms of torsional stability, in terms of snapback in the forefoot, and in terms of comfort, in terms of shock absorption, yeah, once again, I mean, like I said, you put these on, they are super comfortable. This is the shoe I actually wear to mountain bike too, weirdly enough, because I find that being on the pedals and everything on a mountain bike, this has been the best for me. So I know, kind of weird. I mean, yeah, they are great court shoes, but they obviously have some other aspects to that. That supercritical TPE does do very well in a lot of different applications. All right, but getting into the outsole tread, this was how I met the people at Xenon, the fine folks. They were asking me to help them with the tread design, and so it has not changed since we worked on this, and it is a flat herringbone in the rear foot, then a much chunkier in the forefoot, almost like a delta pattern in the forefoot, and then some zigzags going around. Obviously, the lateral flange on the V2 has changed a little bit from the V1, made it just a little bit slicker, a little bit more streamlined, less bulky in the forefoot. But interestingly enough, what Xenon has done with the rubber, obviously it is super thick because it's meant to be played on a paddle tennis court, which is, it's basically just, it's like a diamond cutter under your foot. It's such an abrasive surface. So that's why it's made like this with a super thick rubber, because the main goal of this shoe is durability. Interestingly enough, they started using some of the same rubber that a lot of the Chinese brands have been using, where the durometer started to come down, but the durability is going sky high, and they have the same rubber in the V2. So the durometer on these is only 18.5. On the outsole durability test, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper basically just scuffs it a little bit. I mean, this stuff is the most durable rubber out there. Interestingly enough though, I'm putting it on over there on my little basketball, the big grip test ramp I have, the basketball court, and I'm walking around, I'm like, man, these are grabbing pretty well. I went to the community center and used my pair. I was like, I just never thought to wear them on an indoor court, and they were doing just fine. Now, ones that I had used on outdoor courts, obviously they were not great on indoor, but if you keep the tread clean, these do grab the indoor courts really well. These do have some micro gritting, which is nice, but it stands to reason. It's the same rubber a lot of these basketball shoes are using to be able to play on indoors and outdoor courts. So it stands to reason that this one would do well on the grip test ramp. I did it on the basketball court just to see. Slips at 33 degrees, which is, kind of in that middle range, maybe the lower end of normal. But for an outdoor shoe that's super durable, I mean, if you use these on indoor courts, let's say like indoor pickleball or badminton or something, I mean, these will last the apocalypse, which is just fantastic. So yeah, in terms of the outsole tread, really hasn't changed. The only thing that has changed, it appears, is the actual compound of rubber. And yeah, I don't think matters what application you use it for. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. All right, let's talk some fit of the Xtremes. Number one, they still come in at 29 centimeters in length, just a hair long. And then they do only have an inflare of 8 degrees. It looks like it's more because of the lateral flange, but actually if you measure it here, it's very, very mellow. So that's why a lot of people have an easy time getting into these. Now, the way I'm actually measuring now, it's the same as the V1 in terms of the stats, but because I measure it off of a standard last now and not my wonky foot, the measurements have changed, so you'll probably want to pay attention just because to measure them against all the other shoes I've been doing recently. You got 9.7 centimeters metatarsal width, 10.1 of toe box width, and a toe box taper of 34 degrees. So all in all, a very, very just mellow shoe. If you're a narrow or medium foot, just go true to size on these things. If you're a narrow and want to go down a half size, because they run, like I said, just that hair long, you can go down half size, get a little bit of weight reduction on these. They're not super heavy anyway, but get a little bit more weight reduction for the same durability, which would be great. Medium at 2E, just go true to size. A 4E, I think you can break these in true to size, but because they lock down so well, you just want to go up a half size, just go up a half size. Like I said, they break in phenomenally, but it's no big deal to be going up. And a 2E, if you want to go up a half size, go up a half size. They're fine. They just might be, like I said, a hair long on you. In terms of the snake bitten foot, in terms of lumps, bumps, bruises, ankle sprainers, they are just fine. Lateral flange is enormous. Plus, the harness on these things is fantastic in terms of rear foot stability. They have a rear foot flange, right? So they have a heel flange on these and a forefoot flange. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. In terms of heel pain, while they are new, I think they are fantastic. I think over the long run of the shoe, because it is a lower stack of foam, I'd just throw an orthotic in there for the long run. I'd say, for a lot of people that are wearing these, they're not going to last long enough for the foam to break down. If you're someone that's maybe playing on these on indoor courts, badminton, right? If you're playing indoor pickleball on them, tennis, and you're not scuffing them up the way they're meant to be, then I'd say just put an orthotic in them. In terms of ball of foot pain, if you have an orthotic in these, it's fine. And as long as you match up to this, you're fine. I think if you start sizing these weird, right? Like say you went down one size on these things, then the ball of your foot starts creeping up. That's not gonna be, obviously you're not gonna match up. But other than that, I think they're fine. Especially for someone that has big toe joint arthritis. This is fantastic because it still allows if you wanna bend, but it does just give you that little bit of extra protection up there. Because these are still really flexible foam shoes in the forefoot, like I said, the torsional stability in these ones is much more than in the ones, but I would still say someone that has like an old Liz Frank injury or a lot of forefoot instability, if you have a stiffer orthotic, they're okay. Otherwise, probably not. But those people like old Liz Frank injuries, ligamentous laxity, things like that. That's the only downside in having a shoe with that nice flexibility in the forefoot and then the stiff stuff in the rear foot, or the more support in the rear foot, because it's going to be fine for ligament laxity in the rear foot, but then in the forefoot, if it's in there, it's no good. So I'd say if you got a stiff orthotic, it's fine. But all in all, to me, universally good upgrades from the first. And I think, so in the first one, I was one of the consultants on the shoe. And then on the V2, they brought in some other people as well. And you can see how much better the V2 is from the V1 when they actually got some people that know what they're talking about in there. Yeah, obviously a little self-effacing, but it is interesting when you get a lot of different opinions, because obviously I was asked on the V2, hey, what did you like about the V1, what do you think of the V2? And I kind of gave my, 2 cents when other people gave their 2 cents. And you can see that the V2 is quite an interesting shoe. I know for a fact, I haven't seen it yet, but I know for a fact there is a V3 that is in production. There is a model of it. It won't be available for a long time. It's still in testing and things like that, but I know that there is going to be a V3. So hopefully more upgrades like these ones. And yeah, once again, looking for durability and comfort, really. This is it. This is the best on the market right now for sure. And speaking of some new and interesting things in the court shoe space, especially the outdoor court space, if you want to check out the new Head BOA shoes, they were in the Endure Pro, pretty interesting shoe. Make sure you click into this video right here, subscribe down below. I'll see you in the next video.